Good evening, everyone, and welcome to HR Rewritten, a seat at the Taboo table. Somewhere along the way, we turned people into programs. We created policies and acronyms, initiatives, but we forgot something basic. Most workplace conflict isn't about clients, it's about humans, not knowing how to work with other humans. What if inclusion isn't a department? What if it's just management? Tonight, we're talking about being human first and titles second. And where do we actually know how to lead different personalities, brains, communication styles, and expectations without having a handbook? Tonight, I'm going to be joined by my co-host, Becky. She's in the background. She'll be joining us shortly. And our very special guest, Gregory Liverpool. Gregory, to help keep the conversation tight and impactful, I'd love for you to intro yourself. Tell us a little bit
Okay.
about yourself and just some things we need to know about you.
Okay. I am from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. For people who are American, for American audience, picture my city is north of Fargo, North Dakota, and northwest west of Minneapolis, St. Paul. I am a 6 year HR veteran, majorly in doing HR journalist type of work. So basically, a Swiss Army knife of all different types of HR related matters, as well as I do not discriminate in terms of which industry that I pinpoint and stuff. I like all of them equally and effectively, and I'm a type of person who puts the human back in human resources. Basically, a person who virtually, I will say, gives people who need a leg up a virtual shot at being a voice at the table and stuff, especially with people who are neurodivergent and racialized and that on that type of stuff, and what I observe in all types of workplaces, because I have 10 years of being in the customer service related industry, and majority of it's been in a call room environment, that it is always the go type of environment, and we do not think of the person in general and stuff. And you will be getting a real life experience being on the other side of the table, I just did a LinkedIn SSI score, and I am in the top 5% of my industry per se. So yeah,
Well done.
if you and according to 2026 early, there is 50 to 55 million personal accounts in the HR recruiting services industry. So I'm in the top 2.75 million of those people, the high end number. If you wanted to equivalent that to a city, that is basically the whole city of Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, which is one of the major centers on the West Coast per se. So yeah.
Gregory, I know that we want to talk about some specific things. There's Becky joining us now. Welcome, friend. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Let me tell you,
That's
That's
okay.
okay.
we're live, folks.
That's okay.
We do,
That's okay.
right? Gregory, for some of our audience, I want to sway just a little bit, if that's okay with you, and if
Sure.
you could share with our audience what it means to be neurodivergent, just for folks. Let's
Sure.
bring some folks around the table and make sure that they're feeling welcome about topics that we're going to discuss tonight. Would you do
Well,
that, please?
yeah, sure, very much so. Being neurodiverse is I will say, a cornucopia of a cocktail of different diagnoses, and diagnoses and of that nature. Myself, I am on the autism spectrum, or formerly known as back in the olden days was known as Asperger syndrome, but we do not use that anymore because of the connotations of the person who of that diagnosis. So it's basically lumped in with the autism spectrum and ADHD, which is attention deficit disorder, which is two of the neurodiverse type of situations of that nature. So, and you also have others as Tourette's, as well as other neurodiversities. It's basically, I will say, a very, very interesting again cornucopia of a cocktail in regards to different diagnoses and stuff, which always gets the stigmatization of that in regards to the R word, which I will not say on this broadcast, but that's what people equate to that, as well as I will say stigma in regards they only could do low entry type of work per se. I will say, for example, if you do a chat GBT search and basically put in the prompt, what are some famous people in terms of the world of business who are neurodiverse, that is in the words of, I will say, back in the olden day, when the New York Yankees had like a murderous row of basically hitters such as Ruth, Maris, Mantle, those type of people, you'll be absolutely shocked in regards to see the who's who of people who are neurodiverse. I will give you a one example. Richard Branson, who owns Virgin Airlines, he's neurodivergent.
Really?
Dan Aykroyd, actor, he's neurodivergent. Who I will say,
I've heard
according to my had a book club called, which we basically feature. We had a book club called we did a book club thing with this book here, The Canary Code. We had a book club of that nature. Somebody in my book club by the name of Julia said that Kobe Bryant could have been neurodiverse. So there is a whole whack of people who are neurodiverse and can be a very interesting, very, very interesting. And the thing is, a lot of people are afraid of telling their neurodiverse status because of the stigma, which leads into, I will say, masking. For example, someone in my network who I just basically met at a Black Network Manitoba event a few weeks ago, and he hired not one, not two, but three people who are neurodiverse. I will not mention their names, but the thing is, he hired it, and he is fully supportive in regards to their neurodiverseness. Working at one of our local companies, which you will hear about, which is called Skip the Dishes, that type of company here in the local market and stuff. And he gives them Uber supports, and I wish that we could copy and paste a lot more Richards in the executive world in terms of being fully recognizable in terms of the neurodiverse status and stuff. So yeah.
So Gregory, great point. And you know how we do that? We put the human back into business, right? We bring light to subjects because no matter what capacity, I've been in HR for almost 30 years, telling my age here, but we've all We've all suffered from probably bullying inside of a company, discrimination of some sort inside of a company. You know, as a small child, I was very heavy. If you were on the podcast last week, you heard me talk about my particular story. So the way we overcome that is exactly doing what we're doing tonight. We're pulling up a chair at the table and we're talking about all the topics that people have labeled taboo. And they're not going to be taboo anymore because we're going to talk about them. We're not going to sit behind a closed door and talk about them. We're going to broadcast them to the world, and we're going to be that solution. We're going to try to be that solution. Really quick, I want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for dropping comments. We're going to engage with you guys in a little bit, and proudly.
Yep, and this is my crew. This is my ride or die crew. In the chat, Jackie, Kenneth, Aaron Gibson, who has a son who is who has a son who's neurodiverse. Jackie, who is neurodiverse. This is my ride or die crew on this wonderful platform. I will say, if it wasn't for these type of people, I would not be the person that I here today. You would probably see me in a rougher shape of mind, body, and spirit, basically. So, yeah.
Well, we're glad to have everybody in the chat. We're proudly streaming on LinkedIn, also YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. So we're getting the word out there, and we're just going to keep talking about it. Let's start with our first topic of the evening. What does human first actually mean at work? Is it empathy? Is it flexibility? Is it lower standards? Clarity? And where do leaders get that wrong?
Where leaders get it wrong is that they are. I will take a little branding, copying, pasting of a branding of someone in my network who is another ride or die type of person, whose name of Anna Morgan, who lives in Atlanta, Georgia. She has a conference, and I'm always, this is like one of my bucket list type of conferences to go. We are not evolving, hence the conference name of her event, Evolve. We are not evolving. We are, I will basically put it in tech language. I am still have kicking around an iPad that have iOS 17 on it. That's where I will say a lot of HR professionals are working on. We should be working on an iOS 23 HR model. Hence, that's why I will say a lot of HR professionals, in the words of Las Vegas, Nevada, double down and double down on their policies, practices, procedures, and they lost. They basically lost at the HR casino or the HR cards table, and we need to evolve, because the thing is, there's going to be a lot of more me in the workforce. 53% of Gen Zs is either is showing neurodiverse traits or diagnosed as neurodiverse. The common reason, when I was 25, 26, the testing was not evolved or strategized or can't detect it at that corresponding opportunity. But right now, I will say this: that I will give a big kudos to early age childhood educators, the early age schools, grade school system, even high school system. I will say colleges with student services, which I will say they should be getting a lot more budgeting, because I did not know that there is some type of student services for people with disabilities on my college campus, which is basically a very, very hidden type of thing. I didn't know that it existed. And if I had to rewrite the script, I would basically put myself in regards to that. Which we need to, and the best possible thing is to capture that demographic stuff on college applications, because if that's the possibility, we could basically, this is all techie type of talk, that we could capture all that data, have and put it as a pipeline for student services, and basically have an email out, reaching out to people who have disability or have a hard time doing college work because of disability, to get that reach out and be more quasi human. So that's why I will say that leaders really get it wrong in terms of the flexibility in regards to that nature, and I will say it's and the flexibility type of stuff in terms of money or the cost of it is basically either free or basically attending a neurodiverse type of conference or seminar, which is basically, I will say, here in my local market, is basically $500 a pop, basically. So that's virtually, I will say, in regards to how the salaries of all different types of HR people is a drop in the bucket in that realm. So yeah.
Absolutely. So, when does, well, let me rephrase this. Should empathy essentially ever override performance expectations?
Well, I will say it all depends. It all depends on terms of performance management evaluation, that type of stuff. And it all depends on how people, in terms of how it's happening. For example, in here, we had a situation with, I will say, with our CRA, which is Canada Revenue Agency, that a lot of people were giving wrong information to the clientele, which is basically taxpayers per se. Like they were giving wrong information to the tune of 30% of the time. I will say that we need to find out why it is actually happening. Is it basically performance in terms of the human, or performance in regards to people have a certain condition giving out wrong information in that type of rate and stuff? And we need to have some type of clarity in regards to that. Another thing is the whole recruiting and application system for people who are neurodiverse. People like me who are neurodiverse has virtually a highly skilled base heavy resume. It does not have the type of metrics of a human individual that might wow a person to be brought into an interview, because there's not many companies that basically have neurodiverse or disability type of programs in terms of leadership. I just read an article right at this juncture. She basically did. She basically highlighted 3 different companies, which is, and I have the article here in my lap here. EY Canada, Microsoft, and are kind of examples of 2. And that's that needs to be addressed, because there is a major gap that is harming societal as a whole, both the person who is disabled or neurodiverse and the company as a basically a whole. For it, and this is basically, I will say, stats in terms of Canada per se. That in Stats Canada, that 46 the employment rate for Canadians with disability is about 46%,
Wow.
compared to 66% of people who does not have a disability.
Mhm.
So that's a major foul. That's for Canada. I would advise people who are American and global, such as my friend Natalie Thomas, who's from the United Kingdom, to look at comparable stats in regards to that nature. And I will say, um, and and call that type of stuff on your corresponding LinkedIn accounts and stuff. Uh, Call it out and stuff in regards to why is it happening in terms of that nature in G7 and G type 20 type of companies countries per se. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, would you say that there are moments when personality becomes a performance issue?
Personality, yeah, because well, here's this. I know that a lot of people do those 16 personality tests.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say this: you're talking to a person who is top 5 in their industry market, who is neurodiverse and has a protagonist personality. If anyone knows what that personality is, that is the rarest of the rare. That's basically hitting the jackpot times 20.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That is, put it this way, 2 to 5% of the people in the globe, we're talking globe here, has that personality. If you want famous people comparisons, Oprah Winfrey, Barack Obama, enough said.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of in that personality, yeah. So it's basically the best of the best of the best in regards to that person in that personality and stuff. And
And that's why
people,
you're on the show.
yeah, and so, yeah, and as well as, and that could become a positive and a negative, because people doesn't not know how to harness that personality and make it good for performance, and they do not want to. There's an old saying, they don't want to be too close to the sun per se, but some people try to, I will say, hey, if he's this type of unique and has this type of cachet and stuff, and can hold their own in a good environment per se, bring them on and stuff. But the thing is that we are too afraid to have outside voices to basically once again to evolve ourselves in as human resources professionals and stuff, especially when I will say 2/3 of all HR professionals in that in that state of HR report by HRCI, saying that they're hopeful for HR. I think that is not a good number. That should be basically, as a profession, that should have a 7 or an 8 in front of it, minimum. That tells me that's a red flag. We have some issues to take care of. And one of the issues later down in that report, if you get your hands on it, is that a lot of people have different types of paths in HR. Some of it, and majority of the people, did not have a good defined path to get into the profession, which is which is, I will say, something in regards to we need to talk about better succession planning for professionals as a whole within the industry. But most importantly, I will say HR associations need to get on their bike and and get a solid mentorship program in their HR associations, or else it's going to be a colossal situation that might not be pretty per se. So yeah.
So if
And
we take a minute here, the report I think that Gregory is referring to is the latest survey results that HRCI
Mhm.
published here a couple of weeks ago. And we, as a group, kind of through it in a private chat, we were talking about various and different things that they measured, how they measured it, how many people were impacted. So I would encourage you, if you would like a copy of that, email Gregory and he will give you the link.
Or I will, or I'll dump the link in the comments after this event is done and stuff, because I'm a person who does not want to don't want to keep information to myself, and I'm an open door, because once again, an old saying, information is power, and HR professionals need to get more information to evolve as a human per se. So yeah.
and really, we're gonna. I know we want to dive into, the accommodations versus accountability, but just real quick,
Hmm.
I want to ask you, Gregory. Everything just seems to be lumped under ADA, right? There's no expectation, there's no onus on leaders or HR to have to be required to learn just the fundamentals of different, you know,
Hmm.
abilities and things along those lines. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, especially as you
Well,
HR?
as an outsider, being in the true north, strong and free, north of the 49th parallel, I basically adore that piece of legislation. That is basically the best legislation in terms of disability accommodation in the world per se. 35 years young. I wish that we have that same type of legislation powers here in my nation, but that's something we could all strive for. But I will say that this is a good. It is all centers of that piece of document, and I think that that should be, I will say, first learning when you first get your first HR related type of position. If you're in the United States, I will say it's something similar to something in Canada, that you get when you get your first HR position, that you're learning about a whole different types of things. Especially, I will say, since once again, rewind the tape, in terms of the onset of Gen Z and neurodiversity. That should, in my view, that should be a mandatory requirement for HR certification.
Yeah.
Understand neurodiversity. It should be, but it's always basically, I will say, an HR association will give you the information, you deal with it, you run with it. It's on you to know, but it should be downloaded from upon high, that you need to understand those that type of people, because you could blindly stigmatize an individual like me and others, people who are in this lovely chat room per se, who are my neurodivergent friends per se. So, and advocates of people who are neurodivergent and stuff. So yeah.
Got it. And really, I mean, talk about those mandatory or those mandates. I mean, we have the compliance trainings, harassment,
Hmm.
discrimination, things
Yeah.
along those lines.
Yeah.
And if there's if HR, if leaders don't have that fundamental, knowledge, that baseline knowledge, how are they going to be able to help the situations that, neuro
Correctamundo.
are dealing with
Correctamundo.
their coworkers?
Yeah. And in the words of Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday, then we will all perish together, basically. So
Right.
that's one thing you'll know about me. I could go a little punny in terms of sports, pop culture, movies, entertainment type of
We
thing.
love
So
that
yeah,
about you,
I know.
Gregory.
Yeah, yeah.
We,
Any Given Sunday. That's like one of my top 10 movies I've seen more than 10 times. So yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I know this is our focus of topic this evening, but I think
Yeah.
we're onto something here talking about the compliance, right?
Mhm.
There's so many things in the workplace that we never get training on. They never earmark enough funding for training, and accommodating people with disabilities, or someone that's gone through a sudden loss,
Mhm.
household, a sudden loss. We don't have any training on that. It's, you deal with it as it comes, because it happens so rare, but more and more it's happening, right? And
Mhm.
what we don't want to do, what we should not want to do, what we should want to prevent from happening, is someone feeling excluded or further discriminated against because of a disability. So that's why we're coming to the table, and we need to talk about it. We need to, you know what, Gregory? I would encourage you. I'm involved in my civic government here. I would encourage you to, contact your
I
government.
have because to me, because here's the thing. A person who has a disability, I will say, gets treated and basically does not get somewhat promoted that quickly because of over a person who has a non-disability. And this is where I will say we prevent people from hitting certain glass ceilings. And I know we have, but the thing is, it's a one in a million type of situation of a person who's neurodiverse or have a disability that hit that glass ceiling and stuff. But we
Yep.
need to have basically more people hitting that type of thing, because it's basically, I will say, a pseudo lottery ticket. And that's one of the things that I will say to anybody who belongs to an HR association. I will say you need to press people who are on your board to do demographic makeup of your HR association, because if people are in your association has a disability, we need to, and there's a certain percentage and stuff, we need to reach out to those people who are doing HR and have a disability, because they're getting it on two sides of the spectrum. One side to keep the status quo in terms of HR ethics, policies, procedures, but on the other side, they need to be that type of formalization of change and and transactional change for the profession to evolve and strive and stuff, rather than having it in an old news type of in an old news type of situation that it's not evolving, not striving, it's not
Yeah.
it's not in the 2026 version of HR. We're basically in the 1996 of HR per se. So yeah.
Or
Really,
if
there
not,
hasn't been. So sorry. Go ahead, Tori.
no, go
Mhm.
ahead, Becky.
I was just going to say there really has. I mean, really look at the history of HR. There really hasn't been any progression. It's not exactly the most progressive, of professions. And absolutely, this should be the most progressive. And really, I
Mhm.
just wanted to get your thoughts on the
For
whole.
example, everybody's North Star in the HR profession, God rest his soul, Reverend Jesse Jackson. that should be the, if you're an HR profession, rather if you're just starting out or in your middle of your career, or you have or you have a lot of tread on the tires and stuff, being the Reverend Jesse Jackson of your HR department or your HR industry within the city, country, for people of our United States, people, or I will say people who are listening here, who in Canada, province, and even your country, to be the HR version of Reverend Jesse Jackson. Be bold, be innovative, be do some stuff that is outside the walls. For example, since that since that a neurodiverse resume is heavily skilled based, email, direct email to a corresponding individual from a person who's neurodiverse per se. Yeah, that's be more flexible.
And on that topic, I was just getting ready to say, I think where HR gets it wrong and where we can be innovative is understanding that onboarding or orientation or the interview process isn't a one size fits all. It's just like it with training. Everybody learns differently. Everybody absorbs differently. Everybody hears things differently. So we need to understand the candidate who we're bringing into the facility. And if there's a group of candidates at once, we need to do maybe some tailored, structured onboarding process to start that foundation. The foundation is key for sure footing. I always say that. You build the foundation, you have a solid foundation, and then the journey is light and stepping, right? Because everybody knows the expectations, but we adapt to what people need from us. It's not a one size fits all.
Yep, and if you want another book about that type of thing, this is a very good book to have in your arsenal.
Please add that to the comments too.
I know, it's a framework for peopling and engaging neurodiverse talent.
Yes,
this should be, yeah, I know.
When you show it on the screen, it's backwards. And
I know. But it's Creating Cultures of Neuroinclusion by my dear friend who I follow and have numerous Zoom calls back in the day, Parsha Marlowe, who lives in the New England area, per se, of the United States. I will say that is a book that needs to be read at this current juncture of 53% of Gen Zs are neurodivergent right at this current juncture per se. So yeah.
And really tying taking a couple of steps back, SHRM doesn't even get it right. Look at their current that they have with the whole debacle over the
11.3.
Right, and you think that's our main resource that so many of us rely on, and you would think above all they would be the ones that the right way. And I think it's just really bringing it to the forefront, the deficiencies, the gaps, the non-attention that's being put towards such critical topics and things that people deal with, and people aren't being set up to succeed. Half the time they're not even getting their foot in the door and aren't even getting the opportunity to show what they thought. And Albert Einstein, he is neurodiverse, and imagine if everyone who's neurodiverse got the opportunity to show us what they got. I mean, who knows, we would probably be far into the flying car genre, and there's so much to learn, and it's not something you can just spend a week reading one book and now you're a pro. I mean, it's so different for everyone. Everyone is unique in who they are. It's individual, and you
Yep.
can't just shove everyone under the same umbrella.
And
Yep.
y'all know how I feel about handbooks, right? I mean, handbooks are not my favorite thing because people do them or companies do them, and then it goes in the drawer over here, and then 2 years later, somebody has an issue, and let's get the handbook out and see what it says, and then oops, the policy's outdated because no one looked at it. This is the same thing. We're 30 years past where we need to be
Yep.
in
Big
modern
time.
HR and how we deal with people. It's very simple in my mind. It's
That's
very simple.
and that's why I bring back the discussion that COVID was the best time, because almost 85% of everybody was basically shut down. And I'd be saying, okay, if you're an HR pro, start looking at everything, your policies, your procedures, hiring policies and procedures, everything of that nature. Because if you don't, things go awry.
And we didn't.
Yeah, and I'm going to actually just kind of go a step further. You think that going, those who are going to college and, getting their degrees, masters, even PhDs in HR, you think these would be parts of that curriculum. You have to learn psychology, but why aren't we, putting more into the academia of neurodivergence, everything else? Why isn't that being taught in the school? Why aren't those materials being updated? So, I mean, it is not just government-wise. It's not just profession-wise. It's across the board that it is not as visible and as it absolutely should be by now.
It is being taught, but it's being taught under DEIA. And for my networking friend, she might be watching this on replay, by the name of Lynn with an E, J, because she always wrapped me on the coals. Include the J, which is basically social justice, which I always tell her that I'm not there yet, but I'm learning every single day about the J and stuff. But it's always included in there. But I will say it needs to have its own sector because again of the rising of Gen Z with people who are neurodiverse per se. So yeah, so it needs to be it needs to be on its separate island per se. So yeah, of relevancy. Hence the quote from Roman Reigns, WWE superstar, basically. So, right. Yeah.
But yeah, if you've got people who are specialized in benefits administration, things like that, I mean, you really should have someone who is designated to ADA to make sure all of those components are, being covered. You have that one person who is designated for that. I mean, what a relief that's going to provide people. I mean, talk about psychological safety and the ultimate support. I mean, that's a critical piece that should be included into that HR team.
Becky, before you jump into the next one, let's go ahead and pose the question. No, let's go. It's great discussion, but I think we're almost there, so we'll segue into number 3 that I posed to you guys. But I'll drop the question in the chat: is fairness equal treatment or equal clarity? Sound off in the chat and let us know how you feel about that, and then go for it, Becky. Let's talk about it.
Well, I mean, I've been doing a lot of talking, Tori. Please let me give you a chance. I'm going to take a breath and drink some water.
Okay. It's important to hydrate, right? Gregory's doing a good job of that. We saw you, Gregory.
I know.
Gregory, let's talk about how leaders support someone with a disability without lowering the expectation. Let's talk about that question first.
Whoa, that is a tough question because, okay, how can you support them is basically, I will say, become their, I will say, quasi mentor. And I know that this will be virtually a taboo thing because the whole conflict of interest type, that type of stuff. But I will say, if you become their mentor and you basically treat them with respect and respect them in terms of their viewpoints, their discussions, and all that type of jazz type of thing, they will it will be a lasting relationship of that fashion. Because and the reason I could say this, because I had a mentor that I still go to this day, by the name of Anne, a different type of Anne, here in my city. And she knows that I am a person who is neurodiverse. And one of the things that one of the things that she says, "What can I do to help you?" I says, "Make sure that this train stays on the tracks, because this person can go off the track in a New York minute, basically. So it could happen very, very speedily and stuff." So that's one of the things. Because I will say, because if, for example, if you do not know that person and they have a disability skill set, you could basically alienate that person. And I have in the words of Shakespeare, the slings and arrows of those battles, basically. So, yeah.
So Josette put a comment that I want to read to you guys, and then get some.
Sure. True story. I just met this person, I will say, a month ago on a Zoom call from El Paso, Texas. So, and she's in my Web of Weird community for people who are unabashedly neurodiverse and stuff. So yeah, so flash the comment up. So yeah.
Okay, Josette says, from my experience, fairness isn't the same as giving everyone identical treatment. True fairness means recognizing individual strengths, challenges, and needs, especially for neurodivergent team members. It's about adapting support and removing barriers without lowering expectations, so everyone can perform at their highest potential. By providing tailored accommodations and fostering an inclusive environment, we uphold equity while maintaining high standards and growth opportunities for all. And I'm going to summarize that and say, it's meeting people where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Not lowering standards. It's meeting people where they are and bringing them on a journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone, it doesn't mean, if you have a disability, it doesn't mean that you lack in brain power or skill set or knowledge or the ability to learn. It means we learn differently, right? We learn differently. So we have to, as HR professionals, and honestly, you guys, as humans, we have to meet people where they are.
Yeah, and one of my people in my network by the name of Leslie Flowers, who has a show on Mondays, always leaves this, basically always have this question that she always asks: are all people are on different spectrum of neurodiversity? And she always leaves that type of question or comment in anytime we talk about neurodiversity, disability issues, because that is always a question that is always unanswerable. Everyone struggles to formulate their opinion, because you don't want to be on the wrong side of the answer. You don't want to be on the right side of the answer. It's basically a very, very grayish type of answer, immensely and stuff. So yeah, so it's when she poses that question, everybody basically stops and says, "Good question. We don't know." So it's a very deep question of that nature per se. So yeah.
But Gregory, I think we've all been in these positions, right? Where we
Hmm.
get alienated, or you've been in those meetings, or you've been in a round table, or you've been in C-suite meetings, and you want to ask a question, but you don't because you're intimidated. You have fear of how it's going to be received. And I think if we just honestly strip everything away and just ask the question, our intentions will show the truth, right?
Hmm.
We're not doing it to be malicious or hurtful. We're doing it so that we gain knowledge on how to step forward. Because the worst step, and I mean, being in HR for almost 30 years, again, a long time, right? I've seen a lot of things and I've made a lot of missteps in my career. I'll still make missteps tomorrow and the next day. But the one thing that I think I have learned just in the recent probably 5 or 6 years is don't be afraid. I say this all the time in the chat. There's no stupid questions. Ask your question.
Hmm.
We're not going to think that there is a stupid question. There's no dumb question. If you don't know, ask. I may not know the answer, but you know what? We're all smart people. We all have great skill sets. And so I think it's just, I mean, if you say it very, very simply, and it's putting the H
Yeah.
back at the top. We're
Yeah.
human.
Yeah. Because I will say, and this is one of the reasons why I am. This is one of the reasons why I will say people. I was saying since COVID, we needed to go back to human networking when COVID over. But the thing is, a lot of people basically stalled for 2 years. Look at stuff that's on a resume, and resume only captures, I will say, 40-45% of the human. The stuff that's on LinkedIn should be taken into consideration if they have a LinkedIn account. And on top of it, meeting the person, regardless if it's by Zoom, Google Meets, a good old fashioned phone call. I will say, we do not reach out, and this is one of the reasons why. That if you're a part of the 66% of recruiters that are having a hard time finding talent, that's on you.
Mhm.
You know what though?
That's on you. That is on you.
I'm gonna
That
take
mean
that
that
one
that
step
that
further.
that's telling me that you are not evolving, and that means you need to look at your playbook and look at how you are recruiting, and basically look at how you are basically um, reaching out to prospective individuals to fill your roles. You cannot you should not be depending it on your ATS system to do the work for you.
But it
And
is.
it is, but that's where a lot of people fall into that trap or call or vis-a-vis black hole. And we need to basically get to we need to get back to face to face type of recruiting. And basically, I will say, bring back the old staple: career fairs, job fairs, all that type of stuff. Because I hardly see that in my city. I don't know where you live, but those are basically, I say, things are becoming retro again. This is, I think that it's time to bring back that retro that HR retroist of having career fairs and job fairs basically once every 3 months, 4 months, basically of that nature. And if you're afraid to go, if your company is afraid to go to a career fair, have one on your own.
Mhm.
You know what though? Here's the deal. They took the H out of it when applicant tracking systems came in,
Mm-hmm.
HR was driven. Raise your hand if you remember when it happened. Time to fill metric. How many days is it going to take you to fill that job? So you're scrutinizing the papers. You don't even care what you're not taking time to talk to that person because, that would be actual work. You would have to make some notes. You would have to enter it in the system. You're not taking time to do that because the time to fill metric is what's driving the success look of HR. Oh, you can fill that job in 10 days? Great. Give us 6 more. They don't stay for 90 days and you've got a high turnover rate. They don't care as long as that time to fill rate is down. It's crazy.
But is it though? Because my experience has been is that now they have like 10 interview rounds,
Yeah.
And don't get me started because candidates are not going to take a 10-round interview.
Exactly.
No more. That's basically abuse.
And then they ghost you. They don't even have the decency to tell you that.
Or they bring you on site in the 7th round to sit in front of 6 people, 3 of which you've already talked to.
Yeah.
Then they ghost you.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's where we have places such as Glassdoor that basically companies don't believe it's real. It's real. Right. And that's where people
here.
and that's where I will say websites like Glassdoor it is necessary because that exposes the candidate experience at your corresponding company per se. So and I will say, and if you have bad candidate experience, that is basically your trust. One of your pillars. That's one of that is a major trust violation of major epic proportions per se. So yeah.
And I'll just say, you want to talk about real life true metrics. That's where you're going to find it. You're going to find it in the exit interviews. You're going to find it on the websites, like Glassdoor, Indeed, whoever do, and they can't complain that the data is not accurate. Well, look at the data that's real. Stop trying to recreate the narrative and paint a different picture.
Raise your hand if you ever took a job and then looked on Glassdoor and was like, holy crow.
Or as HR, how many of you looked at a job or looked at the company before getting hired and thinking, I can make this better. I'm going to turn this around.
Yeah, very much so. I'm one of those. I'm guilty as charged for me and stuff. Yeah.
Because we're human.
Yeah.
This is the difference between good HR and
very much so. Yeah.
Want to make that change.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
You guys, this hour has flown by,
doesn't it? Oh my gosh.
It's flown by, y'all. Gregory is one of our OG podcasters.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about psychological safety and
don't give it away.
I know.
That's for a future show, Gregory.
I know.
Gotta get people back.
I know. That's a hook. Yeah, I know.
So I will give you an opportunity. I want to give Becky an opportunity too, and I'll close things out. But Gregory, it's been so lovely having you with us this evening. I want to give you an opportunity to say what's on your heart, my friend. Give us the message that we need to close out the show with, and then we'll just flip it right over to Becky when you're done.
Well, the message I will say is HR is in the words of Cody Rhodes' finisher, which will be a WWE event this Saturday, Elimination Chamber in Chicago, Illinois. We're at a crossroads here. And the crossroads is that if we want to stick with the status quo, with the onset of Gen Z being more neurodiverse as ever before, which will lead into the most the the most talent loss in globally in history of this planet Earth, or do we want to go down a path that we are evolving, learning, thriving, and being our unabashedly inquisitive self in terms of attracting talent such as yours truly to your organization and 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 making them thrive. For example, we are a multi-trillion dollar talent in terms of GDP. 1.2 or 1.3 trillion dollars in terms of talent towards the GDP. That is basically the equivalent of GDP of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Yes.
And if you want to talk about performance management, I see stats that if you have a person who's neurodiverse on your team, it is basically 20 to 30 times more productive than another team that does not have a neurodiverse person on your team. Once again, the reason why I bring it back to this book, The Canary Code. People who are neurodiverse can see problems where other people's don't see those problems. Remember when they have used canaries in the coal mine to see if there is toxic gas afoot, and if the canary dies, everybody needs to run out of the coal mine because or else there's going to be lots of loss of life ahead. So yeah.
Absolutely. And just to kind of echo what you're saying, Gregor, I'm 100%, in alignment with you and in solidarity with you. And I just want to say, Gregor, I think that we have been connected for almost a whole year now, and I have always loved the back and forth that we've had through LinkedIn and everything. And you are very inspiring, and you have educated me so much. What I want to say to HR professionals out there, if you're really in it for the HR part of it, the human part of things, don't wait for it to be a requirement or mandated by, state law or, whatever, country you're in. Take the initiative, to want to learn about it. Then you're going to be able to help the company maximize profits, because I'm telling you, these are incredibly talented people who don't get the opportunities that they deserve, and they've, just absolutely stellar. And we're all humans. We all have unique qualities about us, and just having these dumb labels, it's not fair, and it is very discriminatory. But HR leaders out there, do your homework, start making it a priority. And then when you do have individuals who are neurodiverse on your team, take it a step further. Why don't you take the time to create a career path for them? Let them know, hey, there is room for growth here. You're awesome, and we're going to put you on the path to keep moving up and making more money, all of those things, because it's not charity work. And I feel horrible saying that, because it's not. And so many times I've heard companies refer to it as that. And it's like, it's not a stat, people. These are incredibly talented individuals that companies are keeping themselves from, to the stars with. So, the end.
Mm-hmm.
To you, Tori, your thoughts.
Well, being human first doesn't mean lowering the bar. And it means knowing how to lead the human standing in front of you. Titles don't fix culture, and policies don't build trust. Programs don't replace courage. Courage. Management is human work, and if we can't do that, nothing else matters. And just a final thought, I want to promote a little.
Can I do one more stat bomb on you?
What's that?
Can I do one more stat bomb on you?
Yeah.
In 2022, Canadian Survey on Disability, 27% of people aged 15 years or older reported a disability that limits their daily activities. That's roughly 8 million individuals in my home and native land. Of those, only 62% working age adults were employed compared to 78% of those without a disability.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Wow, that is incredible.
It
That
is.
Again, I would advise people in the United States to find comparable stats of that nature. That's my disclaimer. There you go.
100%. Thank you, Gregory.
Thank you, Gregory. Listen, just shifting gears mildly, but this applies, right? Last night, I finalized a project that I am so incredibly proud of. I've poured my heart and soul into living my motto, fixing what's broken on purpose. And that became an executive diagnostic build for founders, CEOs, and leadership teams who want structural clarity and not guesswork. It's called How Your Organization Actually Works. And it's a starting point, right? It's a tool. It surfaces decision bottlenecks, blurred accountability, and structural friction before performance drag becomes margin erosion. And it talks about how we treat people and how we hire talent. It's not an engagement survey and it's not culture fluff. It's an executive grade instrument to help leaders see what's actually happening if they're honest, right? If they're honest, and it helps them prioritize what to fix first. We're finalizing it. It should be integrated to my website this week. If it resonates with you, message me. I'd love to talk to you about it. It will be for download. My name is Victoria Forsberg. I'm the proud owner of 922 Solutions and the owner and just developer with my co-host Becky of HR Rewritten. We bring this to you brought to you by 922 Solutions. We do this weekly, every Thursday. If you've got a topic that you'd like us to discuss, drop it in the comments, drop us an email. You can find all three of us on LinkedIn. Gregory, thank you again so much. It's been a pleasure this evening, and we will keep trying to fix what's broken on purpose.